Before we dive into today's story, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss incredible stories like this one. At Westfield High, most people never gave the janitor a second thought. His name was Henry Clark, a quiet man in his late 50s who shuffled through the halls with a mop bucket and a ring of jangling keys. He had a limp from an old injury, and his graying hair made him look older than he was. Students barely noticed him, and teachers only nodded politely when he emptied their trash cans. To the world, Henry was invisible. But Henry carried a secret that no one knew. He had an insatiable curiosity. While others hurried home when the day ended, he lingered. He had a habit of poking around empty classrooms, forgotten closets, and in used corners of the school. It wasn't mischief, just a quiet hunger to know what others overlooked. One Friday night, after a school basketball game, Henry stayed late to lock up. The echo of his footsteps bounced through the empty halls, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. When he reached the basement storage room, a place filled with broken chairs and dusty desks, he pushed the door open and wheeled in his cart. As he swept along the far wall, his broom struck something odd, a hollow sound, unlike the solid thud of brick. He stopped, tapped again. Hollow. His brows knit in curiosity. Setting the broom aside, he pressed his hand against the wall. To his shock, one section of bricks shifted slightly, as though on hidden hinges. Henry's heart skipped. He leaned his shoulder into it, and with a grinding groan, the bricks gave way to reveal a narrow doorway. Cold, stale air rushed out, heavy with the smell of dust and stone. He hesitated, staring at the dark gap. Should he walk away? Report it? Or was this the very discovery his restless curiosity had always hoped for? Taking a deep breath, Henry grabbed his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on a steep set of wooden steps leading downward. Cobwebs draped across the entry, as if no one had passed through in decades. Step by cautious step, Henry descended. The wood creaked beneath his boots. The deeper he went, the colder the air became, until his breath came out in faint white wisps. At the bottom, the beam of his flashlight revealed a hidden chamber. Crates stacked high against the walls, a workbench covered in tools and strange metallic objects, and a row of leather-bound journals lined neatly on a shelf. Henry's hands trembled as he picked one up. The cover bore the year 1912, the leather cracked with age. Inside were sketches of the school grounds, strange symbols, and notes written in hurried handwriting about tunnels, meetings, and something called the Order. He turned the page, and his flashlight flickered across drawings of underground passageways. His skin prickled. Beneath his feet, was there a network of tunnels no one knew about? Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed from behind him. Henry spun around. The doorway he had entered through it sealed shut, bricks sliding back into place with an eerie finality. His throat went dry. He was trapped inside. If you're hooked already, don't forget to subscribe because this story is just getting started. Henry pressed his palm against the sealed brick wall, panic rising in his chest. The flashlight beam trembled in his hand, casting restless shadows across the underground chamber. No, 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 he muttered, shoving his shoulder against the wall. It didn't budge. The entrance was gone, as if it had never existed. He was locked inside. For a long moment, Henry stood still, listening. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, but beyond that, silence. Then, faintly, a drip of water echoed somewhere deeper in the darkness. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and forced himself to breathe. Calm down, Henry. Just calm down. His eyes darted back to the journals. If whoever built this place had kept records, maybe they held answers. He picked up another book, its spine labeled 1924, and flipped it open. This one contained names, lists of people, all written in careful cursive. Teachers, local officials, even the mayor at the time. Some names were crossed out, replaced with new ones. At the top of every page was the same phrase: "The Order preserves the legacy." Henry whispered, "What in the world were you people doing down here?" He moved to the workbench, brushing thick dust off the tools. Strange, archaic devices, compasses, chisels, even a brass telescope, lay scattered like they'd been abandoned in haste. In the corner sat a crate with a lock snapped open. Inside were newspaper clippings, yellowed with age. Headlines jumped out at him. Mysterious disappearances continue. Council denies secret society rumors. Westfield High construction delayed after unexplained collapse. Henry's throat went dry. These weren't just stories. This was a hidden history. He turned at a sudden scraping sound. Something was moving behind one of the stacked crates. His flashlight beam caught the edge of a narrow tunnel, a path that stretched beyond the chamber. Every instinct screamed at him to stay put, but the thought of waiting here in the dark was unbearable. He stepped cautiously into the tunnel, his footsteps crunching on loose stone. The tunnel sloped downward, twisting deeper into the earth. The air grew colder, damper, until the flashlight revealed what looked like carvings etched into the walls. Strange symbols, circles, intersecting lines, words in Latin he couldn't understand. Henry reached out and traced one of them with his fingertip. It pulsed faintly like it was alive. He jerked his hand back, startled. "Okay, that didn't happen," he whispered. But the symbols continued to glow faintly, a sickly golden hue that lit the path ahead. Reluctantly, he followed. After what felt like 20 minutes of winding through the darkness, Henry stumbled into another chamber, larger, grander. At its center was a circular stone table, surrounded by 12 high-backed chairs, each carved with the same symbol, a serpent eating its tail. Dust lay thick over everything, but in the center of the table sat a metal box. Henry approached cautiously. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a bundle of sealed letters tied with twine. The top one bore his school's name. With trembling fingers, he tore it open. The handwriting was hurried, frantic. "To whomever finds this, the order has gone too far. We try to contain the truth, but the tunnels are not safe. Do not disturb what sleeps beneath the school. Seal this place and forget it ever existed." Henry's blood ran cold. What sleeps beneath the school? The ground beneath him trembled faintly. Dust fell from the ceiling. He stumbled back, clutching the flashlight. The tremor stopped, but a new sound filled the chamber, a faint scratching coming from below the stone table. He crouched, shining his light under the table. At first, he saw nothing but rough stone. Then his heart nearly stopped. The stone floor shifted. A crack opened slowly, and something like long, pale fingers curled out. Henry gasped, stumbling backward. The table groaned, tilting slightly as if something enormous pushed against it from beneath. He turned, bolting back toward the tunnel. His boots pounded against the stone as the chamber behind him echoed with the sound of splitting rock. He didn't dare look back. All he knew was that the journals hadn't lied. Something was indeed beneath the school, and now it was waking up. Breath ragged, Henry burst back into the first chamber. His flashlight beam jittered wildly across the crates and shelves. He had to get out, had to find another exit. His eyes darted to the far side of the room where a faint draft of air slipped through cracks in the stone. Hope surged. Dropping the journals, he ran to it, feeling along the wall until his hands found the outline of another hidden door. He pushed with all his weight, grunting as the old wood creaked. Inch by inch, the door gave way. He shoved harder until it swung open, revealing a narrow staircase leading upward. Without hesitation, Henry raced up the stairs. The scratching sounds echoed faintly behind him, closer than he wanted to believe. His legs burned, lungs heaving, but he didn't stop until he saw a faint glow of moonlight above. He shoved open the hatch and tumbled into the cool night air. Grass and dirt clung to his clothes. He looked around, disoriented, and realized he was outside, far behind the school, near the edge of the woods. Henry lay there for a long moment, gasping, staring at the stars above. He had escaped, but what he left behind was still down there. And something told him it wouldn't stay sleeping forever. Henry didn't sleep that night. He lay in his small apartment, staring at the ceiling as the images replayed again and again. The glowing carvings, the letters warning of what sleeps beneath the school, and those pale, reaching fingers clawing their way through the stone. By morning, he knew he couldn't ignore it. He had to tell someone. But who? The principal? No. She already thought he was a nervous wreck. The police? They'd laugh him out of the station. A janitor raving about secret societies and monsters under the school? He'd be out of a job by noon. Still, he couldn't shake the thought. What if it breaks through? He carried the memory of the letter's warning like a weight in his pocket. As he walked into the school that morning, mop bucket rolling beside him, he found himself staring at the students laughing in the halls, teachers greeting them with warm smiles. None of them had a clue about what was buried under their feet. And maybe, just maybe, it was his responsibility to keep it that way. That evening, after everyone had left, Henry returned. He stood in the basement, flashlight in hand, staring at the spot where the first wall had sealed shut. His hands shook, but he forced them steady. He found a faint outline of another crack, the secondary passage he had escaped through, and this time he brought tools, a crowbar, rope, and his old tape recorder. Just in case I don't make it, he muttered, clicking record. The tunnel was colder this time. The air hung heavy, filled with the metallic tang of earth and something else, like rusted iron. The carvings glowed faintly as he passed, almost brighter than before, as though they knew he was coming back. When he reached the chamber with the stone table, he stopped dead in his tracks. The table was split in two. The chairs that once circled it were shattered, broken like toys tossed by a child. And across the floor were deep gouges, claw marks that stretched toward another tunnel Henry hadn't seen before. "Dear God," he whispered. He swung his flashlight around and froze. A man stood in the corner, his face pale, his suit covered in dust. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and his lips moved as though whispering to himself. "Hey," Henry called, voice cracking. "Who are you?" The man slowly turned his head. His pupils were blown wide, almost swallowing the whites of his eyes. His voice rasped. "You shouldn't have come back." Henry stumbled backward. What happened here?" The man tilted his head, a jerky, unnatural motion. "We tried to contain it. For decades, we kept it down. But time wears thin. And now," he raised one trembling hand and pointed at the tunnel. "Now it wants out." Before Henry could speak again, the man convulsed, dropping to his knees. His body twisted violently, bones cracking. Henry's stomach lurched as the man's face contorted, skin pulling tight as though something inside was pressing outward, desperate to escape. Henry bolted, his boots slamming against the stone. Behind him, an inhuman roar echoed, shaking the chamber. He didn't stop running until he burst into yet another cavern. This one was massive, larger than a cathedral. At its center was a pit, bottomless and wide, and from within it came the sound of breathing. Slow, heavy, as though something impossibly huge slumbered in the dark. Henry's flashlight beam swept across the pit, and for the briefest second he saw it. An eye, vast, lidless, and glowing faintly gold. It blinked once, and the rush of air that followed nearly knocked him off his feet. "No, no, no, no," he screamed, scrambling back. From the shadows of the pit, chains rattled. Massive, ancient chains as thick as tree trunks, straining against stone pillars. They held something that shifted just out of sight, but Henry knew instinctively. This was what the letters had warned about. This was what sleeps beneath the school. The ground shuddered. The chains groaned, one snapping with a thunderous crack. Henry clutched the wall, terror flooding him. If it got out, the city above wouldn't stand a chance. In his panic, his light caught on something. Another altar with strange machinery built into it. Old, rusted gears and levers, all surrounding a pedestal with a single switch. Beside it, etched into the stone, were words he recognized from the journals. seal, or release. Henry's breath came fast. This was it. Whatever this machine controlled, it was built to either keep the monster trapped or unleash it completely. Behind him, the roar thundered again. Dust rained from the ceiling. Another chain snapped. He hesitated, staring at the switch. What if pulling it killed him? What if it trapped him down here forever? But then he thought of the students, the teachers, the entire city. His hand closed around the lever. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and he pulled. The ground erupted with light. The carvings blazed brighter than the sun, burning into the stone. The roar from the pit turned into a scream that shook Henry to his bones. He fell to his knees, shielding his eyes as the entire cavern trembled. Then silence. When Henry dared to open his eyes again, the pit was gone. Nothing remained but smooth stone, as though it had never existed. The chains, the altar, even a monstrous eye all vanished. Henry staggered to his feet, tears streaking his dust-covered face. Somehow he had done it. He had sealed it away again. But as he turned to leave, his flashlight flickered across the wall near the exit. There, freshly carved as if by invisible hands, were words that hadn't been there before. "We will return, and when we do, you will remember us." Henry stumbled out of the tunnels hours later, exhausted, broken, but alive. He never spoke of what he saw, never showed the journals, never mentioned the man who had transformed. To the school, he was still just the janitor. But deep down, Henry knew the truth. He had saved them all. For now. And sometimes, as he mopped the quiet halls at night, he swore he could feel something stirring beneath the floor, waiting. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one. Because trust me, the secrets of this world are far from over.